I think if you're thinking about it and this is something that like anything in your brain said, I'm kind of interested in that, you should do it. You should try it. Just pick 1 week, 1 month, and just try it and see how it goes, see what changes it makes.
Welcome to Life Unleashed,
the podcast all about creating the best life for you and your furry best friend.
If you're a dog mom on the go, juggling life, work, and the endless joys of being a dog parent, then you're in the right place. I'm Dani.
And I'm Nick.
And together with the incredible dog mom community from Tails Up Pup, we're here to share advice, stories, and the obsession we have over the love for our dogs.
Get ready to laugh, learn, and lean on each other because life with your dog just got even more awesome.
We get so many questions about us not drinking alcohol, and as a year comes to an end and people start to make New Year's resolutions, I figured it was the perfect time to not only share our story but talk about life not drinking in your 20s. We are in our 20s and it is quite the journey, I feel like.
I wish we could go back like 2 to 3 years ago and make this podcast because we don't get that many questions anymore.
I feel like we do.
We used to get it all the time. I think it's because our friends, family, all of those people, they don't ask anymore and it's not really discussion. 2 to 3 years ago, it was a massive discussion with them. With strangers, it's not. We get questions all the time from them.
It has officially been 4 years since we have had any alcohol. So let's roll it back. 2019. What was that moment like in deciding that you didn't want to drink anymore?
I still can't believe it's been 4 years. That's unbelievable. The craziest thing was probably that first 6 months. It's so weird when every time you go out to dinner, go out with friends, you have a drink. I mean, that's just so normal. And then you go out there and then you don't have one. You almost feel, it's kind of like the feeling of when you leave your phone. You feel like something's not quite right. Alcohol is definitely a social lubricant, or at least it was for me, and it's easy to let loose, and it was very weird not ordering for probably 6 months to a year.
I feel like the people that we were surrounding ourselves with were constantly asking like, oh, are you gonna drink today? Or like, why won't you? Or come on, man, like let's have fun. Like, I feel like drinking is always surrounded around the word fun, and took like almost probably 2 years before someone would not ask us like, oh, do you want to have a drink tonight? Or, those kind of things.
Everyone thinks that they're going to be the person to convince you that night.
Some people take it as a challenge.
Yes.
And that is crazy.
Well, it's very interesting, and I don't know that there's many other things out there like this, but when you say I'm making this lifestyle change and it's, for the better for me, it's the healthier thing to do, this is just my choice. And it's one of the few things that people seem to not respect.
Yeah, for me, it was really wanting a lifestyle change. And I personally never enjoyed drinking. I didn't like the taste of it. I don't really understand how anyone really likes the taste of it. But I just feel like it gave me more anxiety to drink than not to drink. And I have a personality that wants to be in control. So like, I want to know how I'm getting home if I'm going to the bar. I want to know who I'm surrounded with, what everyone's doing, and I just didn't feel safe when I was drinking. So I would much rather be the DD and not be drinking and go out. I can still have a good time and know how I'm getting home and not have to worry about those kind of things. So for me, I never enjoyed it, and it was like I was doing something just to do it because other people were doing it. So I wanted that lifestyle change and to start enjoying the things I was doing more. Like, for example, we went to the Bahamas and it was like no one was enjoying the snorkeling trip because they didn't feel great from drinking the night before. And I'm like, well, we could be enjoying ourselves so much more if we weren't drinking alcohol. So for me, I'm just not going to do it because I'm going to like my life so much better if I don't do it.
Yeah, for me, I'm the opposite of that. I enjoy drinking a little bit too much. I have that overindulgent personality. If you followed us, I'm the type of person that when we go out to eat, I'm going to order the 2 appetizers and the entree. With drinking, it was the same thing. I'm not just having one beer. I'm going to have 3, 4, or 5. And that just did not align with the goals that I wanted to accomplish in my life. I couldn't do that. Just like Danielle was saying with the snorkeling, if you were going to do that and wake up and do that on a Sunday watching football and wake up on a Monday and go attack work, you're not going to feel as good as you could. You're definitely not going to perform as well. And that just no longer fit with the goals that I had and wanted to accomplish in life. So it was like, I'm not the type of person that I'm like, I'm just going to have the one and I'll do that occasionally. It was like, I'm going to be either a drinker or not a drinker. And so
yeah, that's what I was going to say is that if you're listening to this and looking for inspiration to have a lifestyle change, you don't have to be like us and completely cut it out. You can decide what's best for you and your journey. And for some people, that's like maybe only drinking on a Saturday. But if you have the personality where if you're only going to do that, you're going to go overboard, then maybe that's not the right choice for you. It just depends on you and what you're trying to accomplish and who you are as a person, I guess.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's important to say is we're sharing our experience about this. By no means is this saying this is what you should do or there's any one right way, or if you do want to drink, that means that you're not going to be able to accomplish your goals. I'm saying that for me, I didn't think that I was going to be able to accomplish the goals that I wanted to if I continued to drink.
And we really have gone 4 whole years without ever drinking a drink at all. And for us, that was the best choice. And we have really made that lifestyle change. And it's who we are to our core now, and we don't even think about it. I think the hardest part in the beginning was going to events like Christmas parties and weddings where everyone is expected to drink. And my biggest advice, the thing that worked best for me, is just having something in my hand. If I had water, if I had Sprite, if I had anything in my hand, no one ever questions. No one even's like, but as soon as your hand's empty, they're like, why aren't you drinking?
Yeah, I think the main thing is if this is something that you're even debating, whether it's just dry January or it's something that you're like, I'm going to cut back a lot, you really need to be ready for that social pushback. And that is something that I think whether you're drinking nothing at all or just cutting back, if you're not doing what you normally do around your friends and family, there's going to be pushback on it.
I feel like a lot of people use alcohol as an excuse to be someone that they're not. And so you kind of have to find who you are in your core that way, because I'm trying to think like, people associate with that word fun with alcohol because people become someone different when they're drinking. So you can either choose to be that person that you were and have a great time and not need the alcohol, or you can be a turtle. Like, you can decide who you want to be, but when you put yourself in those situations, yes, it's going to be very different in the beginning when you're not sure who you want to be or what you want to do. But now, like, we go to weddings, like, we're on the dance floor. We don't need to be drinking to be dancing, even though we're not great at dancing. Like, we're just like, at first you're embarrassed. You're like, people are looking at me like I don't know how to dance, all this stuff. But like, as soon as you don't care about that anymore, just do what you want to do, have a great time. And people who are confident in themselves usually appear to be the happiest, I feel like.
Yeah, that transition is very hard, though, because no one's going to lie. After 2 drinks, you do care less about what people think and kind of like not your real personality, but the unfiltered you comes out.
I also wanted to say, if you are someone like Nick who enjoys the taste of alcohol and you don't want to give it up because you like it, there are so many alternatives now. We have our favorite non-alcoholic beer, which is Athletic Brewing. There's so many non-alcoholic things. There's liquor that's non-alcoholic. There's wine that's non-alcoholic. There are so many things. So know that there are options if you enjoy drinking, but you don't want the alcohol in it. And Athletic's slogan is like brew without the compromise, or drinking without the compromise. Basically, you can drink the beers and then go run a marathon and you won't be affected by it. And I love that.
And they taste literally so good. So similar.
They very much taste like an actual beer. Oh, the wines are a little bit harder. We haven't found like a wine that really tastes like wine.
One strategy that has worked well for me when dealing with people that don't seem to understand it has truly been the like, no, I do not drink. The one problem that I think can be hard is if you do decide to be like, I'm only going to be the occasional drinker, then it's going to be, well, why not why not party with us tonight, man, is what they're going to say. And that could be as many times as your friends are going to want to invite you out, versus if you're saying like, no, I'm going to come party with you guys, but I don't drink. I'm not going to drink anything. And so when you're very stern with like what your limits are, I think it's a little bit easier for people to accept maybe. I don't know. That's just been my experience.
I feel like also another hard part in changing your lifestyle and what you choose to do is you are going to have a friendship shift, because if you're currently friends with people who are going out to bars specifically, I feel like even if you're going to watch football games at someone's house, it's different. But if you're friends with people going out and partying, then there's not much for you there if you're not drinking. So you probably wouldn't enjoy going. At least for us, that's how it was. So we kind of fizzled those friendships out. But to us, we didn't feel like we lost anything, because that wasn't what we enjoyed doing. Like if we see those people, like we're still friendly and like they're great people to be around, but we don't go out and hang out with them all the time because they're going to bars and we're not.
Yeah, alcohol is just such a weird thing because I can't really think of anything else like that friendships are based around, that partying's based around, that events are so based around. I mean, if you really stop and take a step back, and that when if you decide to stop drinking, you really will see this. But even if you do drink and you take a step back and really look at it, it permeates so many of our social things. It's so ingrained in our culture.
Yeah, we live in a society where drinking is everywhere, is everything. If you are going to a candle making class, they're like, bring alcohol. If you're going to a painting class, bring alcohol. If you're going to dinner, the first thing the waiter says is, what can I get you to drink? And I feel like now more than ever have a lot of non-alcoholic options, and the places that we're going to dinner have mocktail menus, and it's like everywhere now. It's much more acceptable than it was even 4 years ago. People used to be mean to us when we were going out, and specifically like waiters, but now I feel like
which makes no sense.
it was mind-blowing and it was upsetting, but now I feel like more than ever it is more acceptable to not drink, but still drinking is everything is surrounded around it.
One takeaway that I've noticed since we stopped drinking is it really clarifies what you enjoy doing, because I think that a lot of times, whether it's events or other things that you're kind of putting yourself in that situation, you might not really want to be there, but if you have a beer or two, suddenly things become a little bit more interesting, and you can kind of just, the time passes faster, if you will. If you're in an airport and delayed, having a beer or two makes that delay go faster. It just does. I don't know why it does, but it does. But a delay is a situation that you're not in control of. When you're going out and doing these things, maybe if you're not having that beer, you're like, wow, I actually don't enjoy doing this anymore. And what's happened for us is it's allowed us to spend time doing way more stuff that we found we actually enjoy.
I also will say that giving up alcohol is a big part if you are looking to make body changes, fitness goals, anything like that, because there are so many calories in a drink, and it's just like wasted calories because you're still going to eat. So if you're trying to achieve goals in that aspect, I would say giving it up is pretty essential, because you have to choose the alcohol or food, and you got to nourish your body. So,
one thing that I do not miss?
What?
Hangovers.
Yeah.
We have not had a single hangover in 4 years, and that is a self-induced sickness. And it is very, very nice to wake up every single morning with a clear mind. And I specifically notice this, like when we go to stuff that's like a wedding or a late event where we're out, you're still tired in the morning, but you can get up and actually function. You can get up, you can go work out, even if you only had a few hours of sleep, because you're not trying to recover from the hangover.
That is so nice.
I particularly I would have bad hangovers, and I haven't had one in 4 years. One thing that I talked about at the beginning was drinking did not align with kind of the life goals and the things that I wanted to pursue. And obviously one of the biggest parts of that was building Tails Up Pup and working really hard. We work 70 to 80 hours a week, and it is very hard to do that if you're not at your mental clearest, your physical best. I mean, you have to be running on all cylinders to do it, or to do it well. And that's just one of those things that it's made it much, much easier to work very hard. And honestly, I can come home, have a 7-8 hours of sleep, and I am fully restored, ready to go. And if on a Saturday I was drinking and that type of stuff, I would be recovering on Sunday, and I probably am not going to feel super great on Monday either.
As your wife, that is the biggest change that I've seen. You are much more determined and hardworking, and you are a goal setter, and you achieve those goals. And it has just been a complete 360 of who you were 4 years ago and who you are now in the business realm. And you just work so much harder now, and that's really cool to see.
I think one thing, if you read about the effects of alcohol on the brain and things like that, it makes you you don't care as much about the future. So of course, goal setting and anything that's going to require more than the next hour or in the moment type decision making is going to be impaired. And so obviously that's really only when you're drinking. But if you drink regularly, I think that can lead to that being affected. You're maybe living for the same living for the weekend is the biggest thing that I remember. Obviously, people can feel that and still not drink. If you don't like like your job. You might feel like you're living for the weekend. But the difference is if you're using the time on the weekend to escape, have a bunch of drinks and stuff like that, you're not going to be trying to change your situation to where during the week you're enjoying your time. And so that's a big difference.
Does any part of you miss drinking in that lifestyle that you had beforehand?
I think the only thing that I would say that I miss is there's obviously times that we've had that were really fun, like parties where we did drink at, but I don't think it had anything to do with the drinking. It's just those experiences that you look back on and you're like, oh, that was really fun. I don't think it has to do with the drinking. So I would say overall, no, I don't miss it. What about you?
No, but I mean, I kind of had a different experience because I never enjoyed it. So for me, it's just not something that ever even crosses my mind. I don't think about it because I don't miss it. So, I mean, I guess I had like a unique experience in that way.
I'll say this, how I just answered that changed. In the first 6 months to a year, I definitely missed it. I didn't miss it as much day to day, but when we would go to like a party, a wedding, go watch a football game, I was always like, it would be nice to have a beer in this circumstance. But to me, it was a short-term benefit versus a long-term detriment if I was choosing to drink. It was like, this one thing is not going to be worth it in the moment.
Did incorporating those non-alcoholic beers kind of like replace that feeling or no?
I think it definitely helps, but I mean, obviously you're not getting any of like the buzz from a non-alcoholic beer. And I think, people do drink for the taste, but clearly people drink for the effects of the alcohol for sure.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Because like I said, I don't know how people enjoy drinking like a hard liquor, but I think that they just do it for what they get out of it. I would say that if you are thinking about anything alcohol related and making a change in your life, that the best way to start is making a tiny change. If you're going to go from one extreme, which is drinking in your day-to-day life, to not drinking at all, that just probably isn't realistic because you're going to go into shock almost of what should I do and why did I do this and I need it back, and it could actually end up putting you in a worse place. So find one little change. So maybe if you're drinking every single day, then maybe you're like, okay, I'm only going to drink 3 days a week, or like cut back in one way, see if you notice any changes and if you like that, and then you can go further if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, it was, for us, we went 0 to 100 basically.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. For most people, that's probably not realistic, and I don't know if I would advise it to anyone because it might harm them more than help them.
One thing that you could do too, I mean, this doesn't mean if, say you drink a few times a week that you're saying, I'm going to drink 1 time a week. You could also say, I'm going to not drink for the next week. And then, see how 1 week of not, like, you don't have to say I'm not drinking forever.
Yeah, steps.
Baby steps. Just don't drink for the next week or don't drink for the month of January, whatever it might be, a baby step.
But it is a great time going into the new year, knowing that everyone is trying to make some kind of change. It's a great time to set a goal, a New Year's resolution, and maybe alcohol is that for you.
Yeah, and to be clear, I don't think there's anything wrong with drinking. Specifically, like if you drink responsibly, there's nothing wrong with it. So if you are wanting to make this change, you clearly have some type of reason. You may have articulated that to, yourself or to somebody else, or maybe you're not really sure. There's something in your heart that says, I kind of don't want to be doing this as much anymore. So I think having that reason is very important because when that person asks you, well, come on, why not right now? If you don't have a strong reason to fall back on, peer pressure is very, very strong, and you will fall back.
Especially around drinking. And that was probably the hardest part, is having those people who you're surrounded with, the people that you love, friends and family, saying, come on, come on, come on. You need a support system. So if you are looking to make these changes, find a support system, whether that be in books, in videos, in a group, in a friend. Maybe you tell your best friend like what you're planning to do and tell them that you need their support. And maybe they might not like it because they're going to lose their drinking buddy or something, but you need to tell them and be honest, because communication is key, and let them know that this is going to be hard for you and that you want their support.
Well, one thing, and this works for fitness goals, really any type of goal that you want to accomplish, putting it out there like to the public, whether that be on social media, literally could be just telling a friend, that is going to make you more accountable.
Yeah. Not only do you need the support, you need the accountability. If you put it out there that you're going to do it, then you're going to feel like you have to stick to it. So that's also what's really hard for people, is not wanting to commit to something. But if you do, then you're going to stick to it and you're going to accomplish that goal that you want.
One thing that you did say that I would push back a little bit on is you had said that like it wasn't a big deal of us losing kind of like our drinking friends per se. And I would say for us, that was mostly true. There's definitely some sad parts about that, but I think the more people that I've met that decided not to drink, I actually think that's a really hard thing for people. You actually are feeling like you're losing some of your best friends, because if you're going to not drink anymore, it's very rare that I've seen that if most of your friends are centered around drinking and alcohol, you're very likely to stay as good of friends with them. And that's really hard for people to swallow and to change.
I guess what I was meaning by that is like, if that isn't who you want to be and they're not supportive and you don't enjoy doing those things, then why would you want to surround yourself with that? So you're going to find new friends who have the same values as you. And to me, that was what was more important. And like I said, we're still friends with those people and we still like to hang out with them. But it's like, if I don't enjoy going to a bar, I'm not going to go to a bar. And if this new friend that I made wants to hang out and sew a pillow, then like I'm gonna hang out and sew a pillow. That's much more fun to me than going to a bar when I'm not drinking.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Danielle and I are both more like, we don't like crowds. We're more introvert type people, and so we never really loved those circumstances anyways.
The sewing the pillow thing seemed really random, but that was one of the first activities that I did with a friend when we stopped drinking. We went to like a sewing class, and that was really fun for me. So there's a lot of things that you can do that don't revolve around drinking. You just have to do research and find those things.
Yeah, and but it is a big, like anything, anytime your schedule and like your activities that you do outside of work change, that's a big life change, and you have to get used to getting over it.
So what is one final piece of advice that you would give if someone is interested in cutting back on alcohol?
I think if you're thinking about it, and this is something that like anything in your brain said, I'm kind of interested in that, you should do it. You should try it. Just pick 1 week, 1 month, and just try it and see how it goes, see what changes it makes in your life. The thing that I want to know is why there are so many people that I know that have done dry January. All of them talk about amazing, positive things from it. Overall seems to be great experiences, yet so many of those people go back and start drinking again.
It's because they don't want to change. They don't want to lose those friendships. A lot of people think that you're weird if you don't drink too. They don't want to be labeled as that. I think all the things are hard, and you just have to decide who you are, what values you have, and what's important to you. And that's what you have to hold close to you in maybe changing who you are and what you want to be.
Yeah, I will say the other advice is be prepared. I know we said this before. Be prepared for the pushback. That will happen. If you haven't done it, then you haven't seen what that's like, but it's from family, it's from friends, and it's from society.
And that's why finding your core values are so important, because if you're having pushback, if it's a core value to you, then you're going to be able to stand strong and, hold true to who you are. Where if you're just like, maybe I'm trying it just because, then if someone pushes you, then you're just going to give in.
Yeah, it's very similar to when we we did a big diet this past year, which would love to do a whole podcast about that at some point. But when we did that, when we would go out for family, all that family meals, things like that, people push back, but it's like, no, this is what Danielle and I are committed to, and we had almost no problems sticking to that, because it was the same type of, this is our commitment, this is what we're doing, and it doesn't really matter what anybody else says or pressures us to do. We're sticking to it. Same with drinking.
This was great. Thank you so much. And if you are listening to this podcast for the first time, thank you so much. Don't forget us to give it a 5-star review. That would be so great. And happy New Year almost.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.